So much going on in the markets this week. The S&P 500 last week was down almost 2%. Same thing with the Nasdaq, with both having a massive gap that needs to be filled on the weekly and the daily charts. We have Trump and Powell fighting over interest rates. We have the Iran-Israel situation going on, causing a massive spike in oil prices. You can see that crude oil was up almost 20% over the last few days based on this Iran-Israel news. Trump pushing for Powell to cut rates, but obviously due to this Iran-Israel situation, causing this massive pump in oil prices, poses an unforeseen risk relating to inflation. We had our FOMC meeting on Wednesday of last week. The Fed obviously kept rates the same. We had a 99.7% chance that the Fed was going to keep rates at what it is. If we go forward to the next Fed meeting on July 30th, we now have still almost a 90% chance that the Fed is going to keep rates the same, with only a 10% chance that the Fed is going to cut. Uncertainty in the economy and in geopolitics obviously causes some fear in the markets, and we saw a pullback last week. I think personally that this is not over. I think there is a potential that we are going to go back down and fill this gap, but once we were able to trade price back into here and balance it, I do think there's going to be strong potential for us to move up and make new highs in the S&P as well as the Nasdaq. So much news to cover here, and again, welcome back to a Markets in Under 5, where I cover everything you need to know in the stock market. In just 5 minutes, we're going to cover the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, and some stocks that I'm looking to buy here, how we can take advantage of these opportunities. So let's get into it. Okay, so again, super briefly, SPY has this weekly gap here between the 576 and the 560 area. This is a spot for me to start adding for my long-term portfolios. If you listened to last week's video, I explained the same thing. Uncertainties related to war typically cause a short-term pullback in the market, and then we see rallies later on. Again, not every single time in history does it play out exactly this way, especially when we come very close to all-time highs like this. Oftentimes we see pullbacks basically trying to create liquidity in the markets and stop out traders who are long very close to all-time highs looking for a breakout. If we are able to get a pullback into this gap, this is going to be that spot where I'm going to be adding for the long term and taking advantage of discounted prices before we ultimately go higher. The market is a game. If you guys didn't know, it's just like the casinos. Everything is manipulated and designed to generate liquidity and make traders and investors lose money that are impatient. So as far as our day trading week is concerned, I am going to be focusing on shorts, ultimately looking for this gap to be filled on the weekly chart. This level on the weekly at $575.60 on the S&P is the start of this gap, and this is what I want to see filled. Next big mover of this week is obviously going to be Tesla. To have the Tesla Robotaxi event starting tomorrow, we've seen a few different influencers on X being invited to this Robotaxi event. I believe there was 20 total influencers invited to privately start testing Robotaxis live in Austin. There is going to be a driver in the passenger seat monitoring the Robotaxi, and the influencer is going to be sitting in the backseat, but this is a huge step for Tesla to start finally implementing their public rideshare service, and potentially the start to their next massive business model, going from selling vehicles to now actually selling rides. Tesla is super close to filling its monthly fair value gap. There is a high here resting at $373.04. So I think ultimately that is where Tesla is going to be going. I don't know if this is going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event, as it's an ongoing event. It's not just one specific day. It starts tomorrow on Sunday, June 22nd. We're going to have some volatility in Tesla, but ultimately I would love to see Tesla go back up to this internal high at 368, fill this monthly gap, and then hopefully head towards that 400 and 440 level over the next few months, under the assumption that nothing goes terribly wrong. Their biggest threat to competition right now is Waymo, but for those of you who don't know the difference between the two companies, Waymo relies heavily on LiDAR and high definition mapping, while Tesla relies on a pure vision based system using just cameras and no LiDAR. And it is going to be super fun to watch and see how all of this plays out, how Tesla is able to scale over time compared to Waymo. You can see some research done here by ARK Invest comparing Robotaxi cost per mile between Waymo Model 3, the new Waymo 6th generation, and the Cybercab. And you can see that with each new generation of vehicles, the idea is that cost per mile goes down significantly with new technology. So assuming that everything goes well with the Robotaxi event, I'm expecting a push on Tesla here. I will be buying short-dated calls and selling puts to collect some premiums. By the way, if you guys want access to all of my long-term positions, all of my swing trades, day trades, option selling, etc., link will be in the description for the community below. Another stock I'm looking to add for the long term, and as well as looking for some day trades on, is going to be Amazon. We have a gap here that formed on the weekly chart that I'm looking to get filled, and ultimately I want to see Amazon trade back up into this monthly fair value gap. If you guys want more details on this, because I have to keep the video short, check out my post on X as well as in my Discord. There is plenty of information on both of those pages for you guys to have a better idea of what my trades are going to be, but ultimately I'm looking for bullish plays on Amazon because of this monthly fair value gap that needs to be filled. Occidental Petroleum is another one I'm looking to go higher. A petroleum oil company. We added this heavily in the 40s and the 30s within a 6-month fair value gap, and I expect this to push higher as well. You can see in our community we added Oxy on April 4th. 4th. And if you look at April 4th, we were trading just below $40 by the end of the day. And from here, we're already up almost 16% from highs. And lastly, guys, I'm looking at Bitcoin very closely. I would like to potentially see a liquidity sweep here on Bitcoin and an ultimate push higher. If Bitcoin is able to rally here, I am looking at a high risk play known as Riot. This is a Bitcoin mining company. On the monthly chart, we are very close to inversing a bullish monthly fair value gap. If we can close above $8.52 for the month of June, I'm going to be adding short dated calls on Riot as well. We have a bunch of low resistance liquidity or trend line liquidity here, and we have this huge monthly fair value gap that is yet to be filled at $24. If you were to add Riot here, you are looking at almost 160% return on your money. Again, very high risk, high reward. I'm using less than 1% of my portfolio for this position, but I think it has the potential to push. As always, every alert will be added in the Discord when and if and when I do add a position. So we will see how everything plays out in relation to interest rates, Powell, Trump, Iran, and Israel, and how geopolitics play out. I'm also super excited to see how Tesla performs with the robotaxi event. Let me know how you guys think the market is going to perform. How do you think the US and China tariff deal is going to play out? Are they going to come to a deal that makes sense for both countries? How do you think the Iran-Israel situation is going to play out? Do you think that they're going to come up with some kind of a nuclear deal? Let me know what you're buying in the comments below. Let me know if you have any questions. And as always, I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.